DailyWire Plus, 50% off right now. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe. A Republican senator wants to get rid of dual citizenship. A star of Stranger Things gushes over how happy she is that her mom aborted her sister. And the FDA finally admits, 5 years late, that you were all right, that we were all right, that Fauci Ouchie killed people, actually specifically killed American kids. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. A disturbing report out in the Wall Street Journal that college students can't do basic math. Not really surprising, actually, to anyone who's taken a look at colleges over the last 15 years, but pretty jarring. Also ties in with a story that I really, really want to get to about an Oklahoma University student who was flunked on a paper by a trans professor because she quoted the Bible. We'll get to that because I think everyone's getting that story wrong. First, though, I want to tell you about Birch Gold. Text Knowles to 989898. This episode is sponsored by Birch Gold Group. Our first advertiser at the Daily Wire was Birch Gold Group. In that time, we've helped thousands of Daily Wire listeners diversify into physical gold. Talk about peace of mind, especially when you see gold up over 50% this year. You know, I'm a little bit of a gold bug myself, and I'm happy about it. Let's say that. In all that time, the most successful promotion we've ever run with Birch Gold was the 24-karat gold-plated truth bomb, our version of a bunker buster on leftist ideology. Well, we happen to have an extremely limited amount in cold storage. Right now, until they're gone, with qualifying purchase from Birch Gold, you can own a Daily Wire Golden Truth Bomb. Let Birch Gold help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. And if your purchase qualifies, they will send you a Golden Truth Bomb. With rate cuts from the Fed, in 2026, the dollar will be worthless. And what happens if the AI bubble bursts? Diversify. That's what. Just text my name, Knowles, K-N-W-L-E-S, to 989898. Claim your eligibility before December 22nd. Do not wait. Text Knowles, K-N-W-L-E-S, to the number 989898 today, because Birch Gold will run out of the Golden Truth Bomb. Text Knowles, K-N-W-L-E-S, to 989898. The dual citizenship question. The dual citizenship question finally making it to the U.S. Senate. And I think it's a simple issue, really. I think it's totally obvious, and there really should be no controversy at all. Before that, though, Maya Hawke. Maya Hawke, one of the stars of Stranger Things. I think Stranger Things is out again. I don't know. I kind of lost interest in Stranger Things. I watched the first season. I thought, this is campy and fun and fine and whatever. And then, as with every Hollywood product, they had to make it political and gay, and now I think we're on season 72 or something like that. But it's out. It's one of the last few kind of almost common cultural touch points. And so just to put the final nail in the coffin, that product, one of the stars of Stranger Things, goes on a late night show and explains how happy she is, how grateful she is that her mother murdered her sibling.
My mom wrote this really beautiful essay about her abortion that she got when she was really young, and about how if she hadn't have had it, she wouldn't have become the person that she'd become, and I wouldn't exist, and how both of my parents' lives would have been totally derailed if she hadn't had access to safe and legal health care, fundamental health care. And I, of course, like wealthy people will always be able to get abortions, but so many people will not only not be able to pursue their dreams, but actually lose their lives and be unsafe.
This is Uma Thurman's kid. So Uma Thurman's the mom, Ethan Hawke's the father. And she goes on the show and people are pillorying her for this. This has gone insanely viral, and they're pillorying her because on the surface, this is just such a ghastly, horrible thing to say. Hey, I'm so happy that my sibling was murdered by my mom because then I was allowed to exist. And, you know, how could I possibly have existed if my mom didn't murder my sibling? It's not like you can have more than one kid, right? No, you can only have one kid. And so I'm so happy that my sibling's dead so that I can live. And even more important than that, my mom wouldn't have been able to play pretend on camera had she not murdered my sibling, right? You can't play pretend on camera if you don't murder your kids. If you don't sacrifice your children to Baal or Moloch, you can't. How could you possibly put on makeup and play pretend on camera. It's not possible. And so that's obviously worth it too. Obviously. I mean, have your child, or at the very least not murder your child, or play pretend. That's not a difficult question, right? Obviously playing pretend is much more important. People are pillorying Maya Hawke for this. And I think it's actually unfair, because I can see exactly what she's doing here. Everyone thinks this reaction to knowing about the abortion that her mother performed on her sibling, that they all think this makes Maya Hawke evil. But it's not. This reaction does not express something evil about Maya Hawke. I think it actually expresses something good about her. And the good thing it's expressing is she's trying to defend her parents. You see this a lot with the kids of divorced parents, which for millennials and Zoomers is like every kid, basically. Not to make light of it, but divorce has become very, very widespread. And you'll notice that the kids of divorce, most of the time, desperately try to defend the divorce on the grounds that, well, my parents were happier and it would be sad if they were stuck in an unhappy marriage. And so it was really good, actually. I think it was really good, and they did the right thing. And it's actually the same thing that you see from the kids of same-sex couples. You'll notice that when you ask kids of same-sex couples, do you support same-sex marriage, quote unquote, largely they will say, yes, oh, it's great, no, it's wonderful. But when you start to dig in a little bit and you get anonymous responses or private responses, a lot of them say, no, it was actually hard. I wish I had a mom, or I wish I had a dad, or it's really confusing. And I don't, I lacked something. I long for something. And you get the reality of it. And so what this tells you is kids have a good instinct to defend their parents in everything, to make their parents happy, to not make their parents angry, and to try to defend them because they love their parents. And that's a really good thing. Growing up means that you need to be able to do both of those things. You need to be able to love your parents, and you need to be able to admit that all of our parents do things that are wrong, because all of us do things that are wrong, because this is a fallen world. And one of the traps, one of the scandals, is when you allow in your own personal life, in the life of your family, in the life of your whole political community, one of the real scandals, one of the real stumbling blocks, one of the tricks of the devil is to say, okay, you have committed a sin, and now you can never admit it. You can never admit it, because that would be to acknowledge that you have some evil in you. That would be to call your parents evil, to call your, your community evil. So you can't ever admit it. You just have to deny till you die, baby. You got to stick with the story. But no, the healthy response is to say, no, we have a proper love of ourselves. So we don't hate ourselves because we sin. We love our parents. We have, obviously, for many reasons. We love our communities. And the truth exists. And sin is wrong. And abortion's always wrong. And, mommy who killed my sibling, mommy was wrong to do that. And she might have had all sorts of reasons, but she did something wrong. I still love her, but she did something wrong. And it obviously wasn't worth it. There's this meme that's been going around. It's heartbreaking, brutal, and it's why it's right. And it's this meme of a little drawing, almost like a little kid's drawing of an actress, looks like Uma Thurman actually, who's receiving some golden award. And then there's a baby up in a cloud in heaven saying, was it worth it, mommy? And the answer is, of course, obviously not. Winning an Oscar is not worth killing your kid. Nothing in this world is worth killing your kid. To take it actually one step further, nothing in this world is worth committing a mortal sin. Because, I'm not the first to observe it. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world but to lose his soul? Ultimately, we are here for a relatively short period of time, and then we go take a dirt nap, turn to worm food, we shuffle off this mortal coil. But because we have rational souls, we are also eternal creatures. And the amount that we're walking on earth is relatively small relative to eternity. And so what's it all for? What's the point? Why do you wake up in the morning and do your job? Whether your job is to be a Hollywood actress, or your job is to be a construction worker, or your job is to be an electrician, or your job is to do spreadsheets at the widget factory. What is the point of it? Is the point to make money? Not really, because money is just stuff, and stuff corrupts and corrodes and goes away. No, you say, well, it's to make money so that I can buy stuff, so that I can feed my family, so that I can keep a roof over my head, so that I can buy a car to drive my kids to school. I don't know, whatever it is. Okay, what's all that for? What's it all ultimately for when all of those things are going to pass away? The only thing that it can ultimately be for is something eternal. And ultimately, all of it is for the glory of God. And that's not just like Bible thumping, sentimental, nice, soft soap stuff. That is the only conclusion that one can reach if one applies one's reasons to the facts of life. And so it's obviously not worth it. And this girl is mistaken every step of the way. You don't need to kill one child to have another child. You don't need to kill your kid to have a career. You don't need to kill your kid to play pretend on camera. It would not be worth it even if those things were true. And so this girl, she goes viral, and we do this all the time. We just keep digging ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper. You see this at the political level. We have to go through all of these twists and turns of logic to try to defend bizarre aspects of the law, bizarre policies, and to try to make them seem like they're constitutional. Because we just keep making all these mistakes. We have to double down. To use the example we're talking about, Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade was a ridiculous Supreme Court decision that invented out of whole cloth a license to kill babies in the Constitution. It's not there. It was never there at all. When the federal law addressed abortion at all for most of our nation's history, it outlawed it. But because in 1973, these judges pretended that there was a license to abortion, then they had to come up with all of these other ridiculous reasonings. Substantive due process and the right to privacy and the right to define our own concept of existence, the sweet mystery of life passage from Planned Parenthood v. Casey, care of the romantic poet Justice Kennedy. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You can just say, yeah, we want women to feel that they have an appropriate control of their bodies, and you can't kill kids. Yeah, we love ourselves and our parents and our country, but we acknowledge that we do things that are wrong sometimes. You can do that. You don't. Maya Hawke, there is a better way. There is a better way. Okay, speaking of kids and bizarre ideologies, I am so dead set on getting to this story about a young Christian student at an Oklahoma university who wrote a paper for a trans professor, and she cited the Bible, and she got 0 points on the paper. And the Libs are mocking her, the conservatives are mocking this girl, and everyone's getting it wrong. We'll get to that momentarily. First, I want to tell you about Brickhouse Nutrition. Go to BrickHouseSale.com. This episode is sponsored by Brickhouse Nutrition. You know how Cyber Monday is usually all about electronics? Well, the doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition are getting in on it too, and their biggest sale of the year is almost over. We're talking 30% off everything, and these are not random supplements thrown together in somebody's garage. These are doctor-formulated products that people actually swear by. First, there's lean. If you've been curious about the whole weight loss conversation, but the idea of injections makes you cringe, this might be your thing. It's designed to help you lose real, meaningful weight, no needles involved. Multiple producers and employees at the DailyWire have tried lean, and they've been so impressed with how effective lean has been in such a short period of time. Creatone is pure creatine made specifically for women, designed to help you look more toned and fit without overhauling your diet or living at the gym. And Field of Greens is a superfruit and vegetable drink that was actually tested in a university study and shown to help slow aging at the cellular level. The kind of results your doctor might notice. But this is it, the final hours. If any of this has been on your list, now's a chance to grab it. 30% off before Cyber Monday ends. BrickHouseSale.com. Save 30%. That is BrickHouseSale.com. BrickHouseSale.com. Should there be a weight limit to qualify for SNAP benefits, food stamps? What do angels look like? Or do they look like black guys? Did Japan deserve to get nuked? Find out the answers to these questions and more in the latest episode of Yes or No with viral content creator and all-around terrific guy, Reed Joy. Check out this teaser. Is insulting an Italian woman's cooking still less dangerous than being near an Asian woman driving? Very important questions. Watch a full episode now of The Michael Knowles Show YouTube channel for the uncensored ad-free version. Subscribe to DailyWire Plus. Okay, real quick. University of Oklahoma. There's a student named Samantha Fulnecki. Nice, cute, normal-looking, apparently conservative Christian girl. She's taken a class from a trans-identifying professor, Mel Curtis, who looks like you would expect him to look. Let's put it that. You can see there's a little, in the professor's comment, you can see he looks like he should not be teaching at a university. He looks like he should be in a padded cell. Why did this young woman decide to take this guy's class? I have no idea, but I don't know. These days at universities, maybe there's not much choice. In any case, she was asked to respond to an article and to give her opinion, her reaction to the article. She did that. It was an article about gender identity. And she said, yeah, I'm not really persuaded by this stuff about gender identity. And here's why. Here's what I think about gender identity. And she cites the Bible. And the professor loses it, goes off. The professor says to call an entire group of people demonic is highly offensive, especially a minoritized population. How did this professor graduate from the third grade, much less become a university professor? Minoritized? What is minoritized? This is what the professor wrote on the grading platform. Now, the liberals are saying this girl's a big dummy and she's just a hillbilly citing the Bible and she shouldn't have gotten any points on this because you're not allowed to cite the Bible on scientific papers and she doesn't know anything and, she deserved her grade. Then you have the fancy pants conservatives who are saying, well, actually, I read the paper and it's not very well written. So it's like, why are we defending this girl? It's like she needs to write a little bit better. Okay. And they're both totally wrong. I have here, very briefly, we're just going to look. I have the essay. I have this trans identifying professor's grades. And I have the prompt. Here's the prompt. Reaction papers are graded on a 25-point scale, evaluated on the basis of the following. Does the paper show a clear tie-in to the assigned article, 10 points? Does the paper present a thoughtful reaction or response to the article rather than a summary? Is the paper clearly written? That's it. Those are the three things. This is not like you're writing a dissertation from the University of Oxford. Okay, this is a very basic thing. Read a paper, react to it, be on topic, talk about the topic that the paper talks about, but give your personal reaction. Don't just summarize it. Give a reaction. Bring something into the article and write it clearly. And here is the paper that the left and the fancy pantses on the right are making fun of. The article was very thought-provoking and caused me to thoroughly evaluate the idea of gender and the role it plays in our society. The article discussed peers using teasing as a way to enforce gender norms. I do not necessarily see this as a problem. Awesome. Love that. It's great. Not cruel teasing, but just a little bit. It's okay. God made male and female and made us differently from each other on purpose and for a purpose. God is very intentional with what he makes, and I believe trying to change that would only do more harm. Gender roles and tendencies should not be considered stereotypes. Women naturally want to do womanly things because God created us with those womanly desires in our hearts. The same goes for men. God created men in the image of his courage and strength, and he created women in the image of his beauty. He intentionally created women differently than men, and we should live our lives with that in mind. It is frustrating to me when I read articles like this and discussion posts from my classmates of so many people trying to conform to the same mundane opinion so they do not step on people's toes. But pause here. I just want to point out, I'm not saying that this quick little response to an article is Anna Karenina, okay? I'm not saying it's the most soaring prose ever written. I have read a lot of college and even graduate student papers and these kinds of responses over the years. This is the Bard compared to the prose stylings of what most people are writing. Okay, yes, I agree. 50 or 100 years ago, the standards for writing in universities probably would have been higher than all of these things. Relative to what most university students are turning in, this is quite well written. It uses the word mundane, let's say. It uses, generally, with some exceptions, an economy of words. It goes on. I think that is cowardly and insincere way to live. It's important to use the freedom of speech we've been given in this country, and I personally believe that eliminating gender in our society would be detrimental as it pulls us farther from God's original plans for humans. They say, you can't cite the Bible. Why not? Well, it's a psychology class. Hear me. The Bible is, whether you believe in God, whether you're a Christian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're none of those things, the Bible is, I think beyond dispute, the best account of human psychology that we have. It is better than ancient or modern works of philosophy. It is certainly better than any works of psychology. Psychology, which only really becomes a discipline in the last 150 years or so with the work of William James, who himself was a philosopher. And then obviously it's greatly expanded by Freud and plenty of psychologists and philosophers since then. The Bible is a much better work of psychology than all of that. It's obviously pertinent. The Bible begins in its very first chapters with a discussion of this topic, which is pertinent to the modern nonsense that the person's responding to. And here's the trans professor's comment. Please note, I'm not deducting points because you have certain beliefs, but instead I'm deducting points for you posting a reaction, also not grammatical, paper that does not answer the questions for this assignment, contradicts itself, heavily uses personal ideology over empirical evidence. Personal ideology over empirical evidence. This is a dude who thinks he's a woman and dresses up like a woman and says in the comment that his pronouns are she/they. But you used your personal ideology instead of, I encourage all students to question or challenge course material with other empirical findings or testable hypotheses, but using your own personal beliefs to argue against the findings of not only this article, but the findings of countless articles across psychology, biology, sociology, etc., is not best practice. Yeah, don't inject your personal baseless beliefs into science, said the she/they. Ridiculous. I've read enough of Samantha's essay to say not only should she not have been given 0 out of 25, she should have been given a full score, 25 out of 25. Okay, this is totally preposterous. And the fancy pantses who want to pretend that they're so much better educated than this girl are absolutely out of their minds. Absolutely out of their minds. I strongly suspect that this girl had the best reaction posed of anyone in her class. It is far above the average writing that you get out of universities. And this professor, the trans thing, should be fired, should never have gotten a job in the first place. It's absurd. And so the university says they're looking into this. TPUSA has come out, or at least the TPUSA chapter, perhaps the national organization, I haven't looked into it. They've come out and backed the student. They absolutely should. And the fancy pants conservatives who want to pretend like this isn't the greatest prose or whatever. I guess it isn't the greatest prose, but relatively it's quite good, and they need to get off their high horse and they need to get over it. They need to recognize that this girl has a lot more to say, even than many, professional prognosticators and pundits, even on the right. Ridiculous. And just to bring it full circle on the politics, while we happily have political power given to us by the people through elections, we need to eradicate the presence of this kind of preposterous pseudo-academic, pseudo-scholar, Melkurth or whatever from faculty lounges across the universities. This person can go get a job somewhere else. I hope he lives a good, nice life. But he has no business at a university. This girl should be totally vindicated. The professor should be punished and fired. And the girl should be given full credit. Totally absurd. Totally absurd. I lament the decline of standards in the university as much as the next guy. The decline of standards is on the part of the faculty here, not on the part of the student. Okay. We'll get to the problems of the universities because apparently college students can't do basic math. We'll get to that in a second. And then a very, very important race could tell us a lot about the midterms happening right now in my town. First, though, I want to tell you about Lumen. Go to lumen.me/Knowles. This episode is sponsored by Lumen. You know what I've realized? A lot of things over the years. One thing I've noticed is when your metabolism is working the way it should, you feel it everywhere. More energy, better sleep, the whole deal. That is one of the many reasons to use Lumen. I have Lumen actually in the drawer of my desk at the office. It is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. Very, very simple. When you breathe into it first thing in the morning, or when you get to the office, if you prefer it that way, it tells you whether your body's burning fat or carbs for fuel. Then it gives you a personalized nutrition plan for the day based on what is actually happening in your body. Not some generic diet plan, but recommendations tailored to your real-time metabolic state. It's very cool. I'm skeptical of all technology, but when it works, it works. And especially when it's simple, I love it. You can use it before and after workouts if working out is your kind of thing. It is like having a coach that helps you understand your body's engine and how to fuel it properly, not just for weight management, but for better energy, fitness results, sleep too. Instead of guessing or following trends, use those actual data. I love Lumen. I've had my Lumen for years at this point. Winter is the perfect season to build strength from within, stay energized, stay resilient, take charge of your metabolism. Go to lumen.me/Knowles. Get an additional 15% off your Lumen. lumen.me/Knowles for 15% off on top of any offers or sales running on their website. Wall Street Journal, college kids who can't do elementary math. A top-rated public university says many of its students can't round numbers or add fractions. Yes, duh, of course. We should all understand this. Harvard, which is supposed to be the number one university in the country, it's not really, but it's supposed to be. Harvard, several years ago now, had to institute a remedial math course for freshmen because the freshmen couldn't do basic algebra. At Harvard. At Harvard. It's the first university, first college in America, and it's supposed to be the most prestigious. So yeah, I bet all the other colleges have kids who can't do math too. What is to be done about this? This is referring to the University of California, San Diego, ranked 6th nationally among public schools by U.S. News and World Report. Roughly 1 in 8 freshmen lack rudimentary high school math skills, defined as geometry, algebra, and algebra 2. Students have been placed in remedial high school math classes in 2023, had roughly 5th grade level abilities. Only 39% could correctly round the number 374,518 to the nearest 100, a 3rd grade skill. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all. Why is this? This is because we told everyone that they had to go to college. This is because we told everyone that they could go to college, that they were suited for college. This is because the government forced colleges to admit people who were not suited for college. And this is because the government subsidized all of those colleges. And now students come out with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and it's a terrible cycle. And it's because we've established our country on supposedly meritocratic grounds, but then in a democracy that doesn't really work because everyone wants to be number one. And so it just levels down everything in a Harrison Bergeron kind of dystopian way. So we're all a bunch of babbling idiots. And on top of that, it's because not only do we all have calculators and smartphones, now we all have AI, so you never have to do any work at all. At least that's the theory. Many, many factors have contributed to this. However, there's a silver lining. Because when I was a student, I remember I was told in math class, hey, don't use your calculator to do the problem set or whatever, because you're not always going to have a calculator on you in the real world. But of course we do. We always have calculators on us all the time. And pretty soon we're going to have chips in our head that are going to turn our retinas into calculators. So you do have a calculator all the time, and you do have ChatGPT at your fingertips all the time. So what's the purpose of education? That's what we have to come down to. Is it to get passed up to the next grade so we can get a diploma so that we can go to college? Because we all have to go to college. Because when I graduated school, 70% of kids went to college. And that's happily declined a little bit since then. But is it so we can go to college so that we can also not learn anything, so that we can get a job, so that we can make money, so that we can so what? The problem here is if you rely on calculators or now AI to do everything for you, eventually you have to know what to put into the calculator. You have to know what to put into AI. You have to be able to understand what question is even being asked. You have to contribute something, or you end up worshiping a dumb idol like the Psalms warn us against. So what is education for? It is not, as I've been yelling from the rooftop for years, over the contrary calls of my fellow conservatives. The purpose of education is not primarily to get a job. The purpose of education is not because that's just the thing you have to do. The purpose of it, a greater purpose of education is to form good citizens, but that's not even the chief purpose. The purpose of education, ultimately, is to know and give glory to God. That's funny. It's kind of like the same answer that I gave. But that's also not just soft soap sentiment and Bible thumping. That is ultimately what it is about. It is so that you can become acquainted with the truth, not just so that you can cram your head full of facts, but because we live in a reality that has objectivity to it. And so all that is for us to do is to recognize that reality and to correspond with it. And that reality comes from somewhere. And ultimately, what we're after is not just to make money. It's not just to pass a test. It's not just to get a job. It's not just to do this, that. It's not just to become a Hollywood actress. Ultimately, we have to be after something eternal. So there needs to be a delight in learning. Not even learning for its own sake. Learning for the sake of coming to know and glorify truth, goodness, and beauty, which are ultimately found in their very subsistence in God. That's what it's for. This is why St. John Henry Newman, doctor of the church, points out that a university that doesn't teach theology is a joke. It's incoherent because it purports to universal knowledge, but it ignores the thing that makes knowledge universal and have some kind of coherence with it, with itself. That's what it's for. And so it's amazing because some of the conservatives, they're starting to catch up. They realize, these universities aren't really achieving their purpose anymore. But even the conservatives don't know what the purpose is, or they're not willing to admit what the purpose is. They're not willing to take it all the way. They're still stuck at the purpose is to get a good job. We all need to eat, man. I agree. But that's not, the purpose is to make good citizens. Kind of. The purpose is to make sense of our freedom in our leisure time. Yeah, that's a lot closer. What's it for? It's got to be for something. Or what's going to happen if you don't acknowledge that, if you think I'm just some kind of like backwards Bible thumper or something like that, if you say it's for all those other ancillary secondary things, this is what you're going to end up with. You're going to end up with university kids at supposedly top-ranked schools who can't do basic geometry and algebra because the university will not make sense anymore. That's fine. Great. I, for one, welcome our AI overlords. I love it because it's going to clarify a lot of things and it's going to separate the wheat from the chaff. Not just even among people, but among ideas, among institutions. It's going to clarify a lot. Speaking of rough math, there's a race. There's an election today. If you're in Tennessee's 7th congressional district, right around Nashville, I've talked about this race a number of times, but you have to go vote today. Because the race is between Matt Van Epps, a Republican, and Afton Bain, who is a lunatic, a cartoonish villain who's running as a Democrat on the platform that she hates Nashville, hates country music, hates the people in Nashville, hates Tennessee, is as radically leftist as it comes. This is supposed to be a major Republican district. There's a Republican congressman who's retiring. We're going to see who replaces that person. This should be a runaway race. And yet, the polling today, Matt Van Epps, 48, Republican, Democrat, Afton Bain, 46. It's a 2-point race. Margin of error is almost 4 points. It's a dead heat. Sometimes congressional district polling is not as good as other polling. And it's an off year. It's not even in a midterm year. It's off of a midterm year. And if the Democrat wins this race, we're going to have to start preparing for a bloodbath in the midterms. First, what's going to happen is, if the Democrat wins this race, then you're going to see even more members of Congress start to retire or resign, a la Marjorie Taylor Greene, because they're going to see the writing on the wall in either their own races or the fact that the Republicans are going to lose the majority, and then they're going to be in the minority after the midterms, and it's going to be miserable, and the Democrats are going to subpoena everyone and they're going to impeach Trump, and it's going to be a bloodbath. This is getting real, guys. This is starting to really get real. So there are going to be all sorts of excuses after the election if the Democrat wins. It's an off year. We didn't have a good ground game. The Republican didn't campaign enough. The Democrat campaigned really well. This is a bigger bellwether, I think, than the Mamdani election in New York, than New Jersey, than the Democrats in Virginia. This is a big one. If you're in Tennessee 7, get out to vote. Get out to vote, please. And then we'll see what will be, and we'll brace ourselves. Okay. Now, speaking of Congress, really important story. Bernie Moreno, a Republican senator, great Republican senator, new Republican senator, Bernie Moreno has just come out and proposed ending dual citizenship. Big issue. A big issue that pertains to a lot of fights in the GOP right now over foreign policy, and I guess in part over Israel, which has become one of these flashpoints, in part over immigration, in part over Latin America, in part over all these things. Bernie Moreno comes out and he says, hey, it's kind of crazy that people have dual citizenship, isn't it? I think we need to get rid of that. And there is going to be, talk about just bloodbath, vicious intra-party fighting. There's going to be a major fight within the Republican Party over this issue. If the issue is able to rise to the level of getting traction, as I think it should, because Bernie Moreno is completely right. Dual citizenship is preposterous. given what citizenship means. We'll get to that in a second. First, I want to tell you about Shopify. Go to shopify.com/Knowles. This episode is sponsored by Shopify. I've started a number of businesses over the years. Back in the early days, if only I had Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, 10% of all e-commerce in the US. We even use it for our own DailyWire shop to make sure things are running smoothly and efficiently so you get the goods. You might be asking, what if I can't design a website? What if I'm worried people haven't heard of my brand? No problem. Shopify's got you covered from the start with beautiful, ready-to-go templates that match your brand style and helps you find customers through easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. If you need a hand with everyday tasks, their AI tools created specifically for commerce can help enhance product images, write descriptions, and more. Plus, their award-winning customer support is available 24/7 in case you ever get stuck. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial. Start selling today at shopify.com/Knowles. Shopify.com/Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S. Shopify, shopify.com/KNOWLES. Stuck on what to get the conservatives in your life? Well, I got you covered. The greatest beverage vessel from the Daily Wire just got even greater. The limited edition golden Leftist Tears tumbler has returned, but the supply is limited. This is the perfect gift for the Daily Wire superfan in your life. It's bold, it's beautiful, it holds 20 ounces of your favorite beverage, hot or cold. Go to dailywire.com/shop, lock in up to 70% off gifts for everyone on your list before it's too late. My favorite comment yesterday from the Drummers Workshop Norms Music. Wow, of course. Oh, you know what? I actually didn't even pick it yet. I didn't pick the comment, so the producers picked it. We're going to see if this is right. Drummers Workshop Norms Music is usually pretty good. Wajahat Ali is the type of guy to eat an entire meal at a restaurant and ask for his money back because he thought it was too salty. That's true. That's true. I'd like to see the other comments. It didn't. Drummers Workshop North Music, he's got a lot of hits, but I don't know. I want to see the other comments. Bernie Moreno says we got to get rid of dual citizenship. Bernie Moreno was a citizen of another country. He writes, one of the greatest honors of my life was when I became an American citizen at 18, the first opportunity I could do so. It was an honor to pledge an oath of allegiance to the United States of America and only to the United States of America. Being an American citizen is an honor and a privilege, and if you want to be an American, it's all or nothing. It's time to end dual citizenship for good. Totally right. I don't see any controversy on this. We should not have dual citizens. Dual citizenship is absurd. It's incoherent. It's contrary to the nature of citizenship. Citizenship is an expression of loyalty you have to a nation. You cannot simultaneously be loyal to two nations. You cannot simultaneously be the same thing with respect to two things of the same kind, to put it more generally. I could be loyal to McDonald's and to America and to the New York Yankees. I can be loyal to all of those things because they're different kinds of things. A restaurant, a country, and a baseball team. But I can't simultaneously be loyal to the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox, or even the New York Yankees and the Chicago Cubs. They don't even have to be direct rivals. You can't simultaneously be loyal to both things. You can't simultaneously be loyal to two countries. It's ridiculous. And the idea of dual citizenship in America is quite recent. It really comes from this case, Ephraim versus Rusk, 1967. Anything that started in the mid-60s has a 99.73299% chance of being bad, because pretty much everything's gotten worse since the 60s. So what was the case? The U.S. government tried to take citizenship away from a guy named Beis Ephraim, who is a Polish Jew who voted in an Israeli election. So Polish becomes an American citizen. Israel, the state of Israel is relatively new at this point, votes in the Israeli election. U.S. government says, well, hold on, you can't, what are we doing? Are you Polish? Are you American? Are you Israeli? We can't, you're not an American citizen anymore. I guess you were naturalized, but you're not going to have that anymore. The court came in and overturned that. The court said in 1967, when the court was saying a lot of dumb things, said citizenship must be given up must be given up voluntarily. That decision overruled a decision not that much earlier, which was Perez versus Brownell, 1958, which said that Congress can revoke citizenship for certain reasons, which is obviously true. The decision to uphold dual citizenship was further affirmed in Vance v. Terrazas in 1980, so it's pretty recent. And then it was in the Carter administration Jimmy Carter abandoned the Bancroft treaties in which the U.S. government said you can't have dual citizenship. This issue, though, actually goes way back. This goes back to 1874. U.S. Grant, President U.S. Grant, in his message to Congress, lamented that there were people, quote, claiming the benefit of citizenship while living in a foreign country, contributing in no manner to the performance of the duties of a citizen of the United States, and without intention at any time to return and undertake those duties, to use the claims of citizenship of the United States simply as a shield from the performance of the obligations of a citizen elsewhere. Yeah, that's great. So there he was talking about the Irish. Here, the citizenship question is really, really pertinent because of the mass migration from Latin America, but it's true just generally all around the world. There are plenty of people who have dual citizenship. It's even half of my people, the Italians, they'll do this. They'll say, oh, my great-grandma was from Italy, and so I got dual citizenship. Isn't that cool? Now, someday I could buy a house in Italy that I'll never afford and never actually buy. But yeah, now, isn't that cool? It's like Pokemon cards to them. Oh, I got a citizenship from Portugal. Oh, I got citizenship in the UK. It's actually hard in the UK. And they're collecting them. Like it's all special. Or really what people want is the US citizenship because it gives you so many privileges. But it's ridiculous. It is of a relatively recent vintage. It generally hasn't worked out very well. It's undermined national identity and actual loyalty to the United States, which is at historic lows. And it's totally incoherent. Bernie Moreno's totally right. I don't want to see Republicans opposing this. This is basic stuff, guys. You know, they always say conservatives are just conserving the liberalism of 5 minutes ago. Yeah, well, if you oppose Bernie Moreno on this, you're basically conserving the liberalism of the 1960s and 80s. I'm a conservative. I conserve the liberalism of the 1980s. Give me a break. Come on. This is simple. Now, speaking of citizenship questions, this was a delicious little treat. And a lot of people missed it because it happened last week. Democrats have just said the quiet part out loud on the illegal aliens in this country. Do you remember that Democrats have said over that whole government shutdown fight, they said, illegals do not receive federal benefits. Do not receive. They don't get welfare. You Republicans, you're accusing us of shutting down the government to give welfare to they cannot get welfare. Here is a Democrat Representative Pramila Jayapal just accidentally, oopsie daisy, admitting the truth.
Yesterday, I was at a food bank in my district talking about the SNAP cuts, the horrible SNAP cuts and Medicaid cuts. And they told me that people are not even showing up to Head Start where they get their food. They're not showing up to the food banks because they're afraid. And it's not just undocumented immigrants. It is people of all legal statuses. It's undocumented immigrants who have been here for 20 years.
Hold on. She almost could have gotten away with it. She goes, yeah, people aren't even showing up to the welfare lines anymore, you know? I mean, and it's not just undocumented. Had she stopped there, she could have given herself a leeway to say, no, they don't show up. She goes, it's people of all legal statuses. It's undocumented. It's undocumented people. It's illegal aliens who have been here for 20 years getting welfare. But hold on. Democrat Senator Mark Kelly told me this.
Federal law is that undocumented individuals do not have access to Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, even the Affordable Care Act. That's the law. So this is a red herring from my Republican colleagues.
That's the law. They don't get welfare. That's a red herring. They don't get food stamps. That's the law. This is a red herring. Well, hey, Mark, you better talk to your colleague in the House, Pramila Jayapal, because Pramila seems pretty convinced that the do get foods, because they obviously do, and they do get healthcare subsidies, and they get an insane amount of taxpayer benefits. And frankly, I'm happy when they get their they shouldn't be getting welfare benefits, but if they're going to get them, I'd rather they get food and healthcare than what was going on with the Somalis up in Minnesota who were defrauding the taxpayer and sending it over to Al-Shabaab. They get it, and they've admitted it. Bookmark that. Bookmark this clip. The next time when you're going to be at Christmas dinner, Thanksgiving's over, you're going to be at Christmas dinner, your lesbian cousin is going to say, hey, no, they don't get welfare. Here you go. It's not, don't take my word for it. It's Pramila Jayapal. Stephen Miller, as usual, a man on a righteous jihad to end mass migration, Deputy White House Chief of Staff, he put it pretty bluntly.
Is it for your audience perfectly, Sean? This was not a loophole. The Biden administration Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, devised a scheme to fly illegal aliens into the country and then to escort them en masse across the border by the millions, and to give them something known as parole, which gives them a work permit, which gives them a social security number, which gives them access to the voting booth. This was the plan all along, to get them here illegally so they can get free government benefits, get hooked to welfare, and be able to participate in American elections. This was an attack on democracy by the Democrat Party. It's the same attack that we see, Sean, when you have California, a sanctuary state, that is refusing to turn over even illegal alien criminals and gang members to ICE. So these are illegal aliens in California who have been arrested by California police, by California law enforcement.
That's it. That's what it's about. They bring them over here so they can get them hooked on all the programs so that they can get them onto the voter rolls so that they can rig the elections. That's it. And we know it. We got the goods on it now. We even have Democrats admitting it. One last one we have to get to. It's brutal, though we all knew it. Most of us, I would say, knew it, though very few people wanted to say it. The FDA has admitted for the first time that the Fauci Ouchie, the COVID vaccine, killed at least 10 American kids. You don't need to take just the conservative word for it. NBC reports, FDA claims COVID shots killed 10 children, vows new vaccine rules. And then I love this. This is the subheadline. So FDA says this is what happened. The Fauci Ouchie killed 10 kids at least. Subheader, vaccine experts said the memo was irresponsible and that it omits key details about how officials arrived at that conclusion. Vaccine experts? You just quoted the FDA. Who's more expert than the FDA? Because during all of COVID, what I was told is you had to listen to the FDA and the CDC about everything, and the NIH about everything. You had to listen to them. They were the experts. They knew everything. You knew nothing, even though you had eyes and ears and a functioning brain and you could see what was happening before you. And even though all those supposed experts kept getting things wrong, you were told you had to listen to them because they were the experts. They had the authority. So now that President Trump has cleaned house over there, cleaned house much more so than he did in the first term, because obviously the first term was largely before COVID. Now we're told, no, don't listen to the FDA. The real, who are the experts? Who are the experts? It's a moving target for the libs. The experts are whoever agrees with the libs. But what did the FDA say? Director of the FDA's vaccine division told agency staff in a memo that an internal review found at least 10 children died after and because of receiving the COVID vax. Vinay Prasad, director of the FDA's Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, is the guy who wrote this memo. It's a 3,000-word memo. It wasn't like a University of Oklahoma quick little response. It was a 3,000-word memo after an internal review obtained by NBC News. Said they determined no fewer than 10 of 96 child deaths reported to VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, between 2021 and 2024 were related to the COVID vaccine. The true numbers, he said, though, could be much higher because VAERS is a voluntary reporting system. So the libs seize on that and they say, well, it's voluntary reporting. We don't really know if it's true or not. No. We can know if it's true because then we can follow up and investigate these claims. That's the whole point of VAERS. That's why it was established by Congress in the first place. But second of all, to report something to VAERS requires a very, very motivated individual because it's all voluntary and it's kind of complicated. So the reality is the vaccine injuries reported to VAERS are not much larger than the actual number of vaccine injuries. If anything, it would be much, much smaller. That's the problem. And it raises another question. Okay, well, if VAERS is so unreliable, why don't you have a reliable way of reporting these things? Because they don't want to have to deal with the legitimate vaccine injuries. That's obviously what it's about. Experts who reviewed the memo say it is misusing information from VAERS, an unverified reporting system that, hey, if it's unverified, if it's so stupid, then how come that's the one that all the experts set up? Give me a better one. You can't have a reliable system because then you have to be accountable. The system's own website warns that submissions can contain inaccurate, incomplete, or biased information. Yeah, which is why there was an internal review, which is why it was quite conservative in its findings and said that at least 10 of the 96 that were reported can be confirmed to be because of the COVID vaccine. There is no evidence that would satisfy these people. You understand that? It doesn't matter. The FDA said it. Well, no, never mind that the FDA said it. They don't know anything. There is no evidence that you could present that would satisfy these people. They are beginning with their conclusion that the COVID vaccine is good. And it doesn't matter, even when their own experts are forced to change the story, they are still going to stick by their defense of the COVID vaccine. Fauci comes out, says, if you get the shot, you dumb, stupid jerks, then you're not going to get COVID. And then 5 seconds later, everyone gets COVID who got the shot. And he says, well, come on, I never said you wouldn't get COVID. I just said you wouldn't transmit COVID, you dopes. And then what happened? 5 seconds later, they transmit it to everybody. And said, well, no, hold on, you misheard me. You get the cotton out of your ears. What I said was that it wouldn't be as bad as if you hadn't gotten the shot. Of course, you're going to get it and transmit it to all your relatives, but trust me, it would have been a lot worse if you didn't do what I said. And then all the lemmings, they say, well, I guess he's right. That's what it means. And it's like truly just brainwashing. But we need these moments every so often. Because what the libs do is they run the lies on page 1, and then they run the retraction 6 weeks later on page 10,000 of the newspaper. No one reads newspapers anymore, but they run it they hide it. The first tweet gets 10 billion retweets, and then the correction tweet gets like 2 likes. And we need to take these moments to stop and say, hey, the COVID regime skeptics were right about everything. And the experts, the liberal technocrat experts, were wrong about everything. And this wasn't just some academic discussion. This had very practical effects. 10 kids died because of Fauci's stupid vaccine. And look, people die because of vaccines. People die because of medical interventions. You're never going to eradicate that from the medical system. So frankly, even that is not the chief problem. The problem is you all lied to us. And you told kids who didn't need the vaccine that they had to get it. And now 10 kids are dead because of it. And all of us who you called rubes, stupid, dumb, idiot conspiracy theorists were totally right. We're completely right. We were proven more and more correct every single day. We are still being proven more correct 5 years later. And you were all wrong. And you have the temerity to call us dumb, to call us backward, to call us threats to public health, and to say we should be excluded from the political order. The chief takeaway from this, obviously, pray for the kids who died because of the perfidy of the liberal ruling class. The chief political takeaway is you were right, and you will never get credit for it, but you were right. And the next time this happens, which will be tomorrow, which will be these kinds of ops are being run all the time. These kinds of information campaigns, propaganda from the liberal political institutions that lie to you about everything, that fail a sweet little university student because she had the temerity to politely and succinctly tell the truth to her lunatic androgynous professor. They are constantly going to tell you lies. And you need to have the confidence to tell the truth and to push back on them as best you can. And when you have the advantage of having a little political power, to prevent them from having political power in the future in all sorts of just ways circumscribed by morality and the Constitution. Okay, today's TEE Tuesday. The rest of the show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLAS at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.